Foreclosure starts are increasing in Southern California. This is one of the only places you are going to get the data in the Southern California Foreclosure Report. We're also going to share with you an interesting trend we found in the properties that haven't started foreclosure yet, but they still missed a payment. We see an increase in a certain number of missed payments and a decrease in others. And be sure to stick around to the end to see the most expensive Southern California foreclosure. Can you guess where and what it is? Hey there, Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates. We've been helping the smartest buyers and sellers make the best data-driven decisions in this crazy market. So if you're ready to dive into the notices of default, notice of trustee sale, and REO properties for Orange County, LA, Riverside, San Diego, San Bernardino, and Ventura counties, hit that like button. And let's get started. Diving into the foreclosure report data for Southern California, starting off with the first phase of foreclosure, which is the notice of default. That's a minimum of 120 days after payments missed. The notice of default can be filed. Next would be 90 days later, the notice of trustee sale. And that trustee sale can take place up to 21 days or more after the notice of trustee sale is delivered. So this is the first time we know that something's up with properties because it's made public when this is filed on the public record for the property is the notice of default. Now bear in mind 120 days is minimum. More often it's a longer process before that notice of default is filed. But looking at these numbers, and this is quarter one going all the way back to 2015, the notices of default are up. In any given market, there are going to be foreclosures, no matter how good or bad it is. Even in 2021, this big dip here, when we had a foreclosure moratorium on the majority of mortgages, there still were some going through. So we can see notices of default were down because of those programs, and they have since rallied back. The first quarter of 2024, those levels are up higher than they were in years past. So we can see that there's a big increase in the number of properties that are receiving a notice of default, that first phase of the foreclosure process. How does this compare to 2011? So we're not at 2011. Bear in mind that the notices of default were actually not at crazy record highs in 2011. So notices of sale, that's what got nuts. But we are below those numbers, so we haven't approached the 2011 numbers for notices of default, but definitely an increase year over year and definitely higher than more normal years for that first phase of foreclosure. Don't forget, most of these people going through the foreclosure process do have equity. For example, the median home price in Orange County, we are at a new record price peak. So theoretically, if you're in Orange County and you bought a home in the past year or before, you are up with equity. Moving into the notices of trustee sale, again, Q1 going back to 2015. And this is where we can see that there is in LA, for example, there's an increase year over year in the number of properties that have received the trustee sale date. But some of the other counties, it's flat or maybe even a slight decrease. So LA does stand out for the number of properties that are receiving the notice of trustee sale. But again, not even close to where they were in 2015. So let's compare to 2011. Yeah, crazy numbers. So we had 917 in the first quarter of this year. How about 6,186 in the first quarter of 2011? Crazy number of properties receiving the notices of trustee sale. Moving into real estate owns. These are properties that have gone back to the lender after the foreclosure sale. And we can see, as we've been showing you, that there really aren't that many properties, down or flat year over year for the number of properties in the first quarter, nowhere near where they were in 2015, all the way through to 2019 even. There were a lot more foreclosures. And the reason that properties aren't going back to the bank is, well, people can sell with equity before it gets to this stage. There's investors who are buying the properties at third-party sale. And in California, they have SB 1079, where you can actually buy a foreclosed property. Yes, I said foreclosed because the foreclosure sale has taken place. You can buy a foreclosed property after the foreclosure sale through the SB 1079 process, and we've released content on that. Fascinating twist on being able to purchase after foreclosure sale in California. And boy, when you compare to 2011, in the first quarter in Los Angeles. Over 5,000 homes going back. That's insane as compared to 75 that we had go back. Now there's enough that you can actually track some homes and you can try to write offers before they get to the foreclosure process. You can buy them through SB 1079 after the foreclosure process. Nowhere near those big, huge, crazy numbers of 2011, but there's enough that it's worth tracking. So there's enough going on in the foreclosure market. You should be tracking your local neighborhood to see if maybe there's a deal that you can jump on. And in fact, if you're going to move in, you can use SB 1079 in the state of California to buy it after the foreclosure sale. We've got a video so you can learn about that. I recommend using foreclosure.com. I have a link below so you can sign up. And I would recommend actually signing up for an account. But let's say you don't want to. You can subscribe to the email alerts and you'd have no obligation. So go ahead and enter your email in here and hit subscribe. And then you'll be able to go to the next page and enter a zip code. Let's put in Newport Beach. And I'm going to get a list of the newest, freshest foreclosure listings. It's just that easy. Next thing we're going to run through are the mortgages that are behind. People are not making payments, but a notice of default hasn't been filed yet. And we can find these in the ICE Mortgage Monitor report. Comes out monthly. This is the April 2024 report, and we're going to be using data from February 2024 and before. So we're way zoomed into one particular chart. I have a link below so you can go ahead and check out this data. We have used this data before to show how many YouTubers out there don't understand foreclosure data and are misusing it. This time, what we're going to look at is an interesting trend. So the first thing I want you to look at, and this is the number of loans that are behind on payments, 30, 60, 90 plus days. Let's look at the 30 days. And this goes back 2 years. And look at the 30-day lates, and you'll notice an interesting trend. And that trend is the 30-day lates are increasing, particularly as we get into the end of 2023 and into 2024. We can see that there is an increase in the number of people who are behind 30 days. The 60 days late, we do see an increase as well. The 90 days, we actually see a decrease. So these are the folks that are 90 plus days late on their mortgage. Those numbers have been dropping. So what is a possible explanation for seeing increases in the 30 days and drops in the 90 plus days? Well, one of the obvious answers is that maybe we're going into a new time where folks are starting to get behind. So we can see that people are now starting to miss payments and they haven't yet gotten into the 60 and 90 plus days late. So time is part of it. If this continues to increase, we need to see the 60 days and the 90 plus days increase at some point in time. The other thing that this could show is that we are seeing an increase in the number of people who are behind 30 or 60 days. The reason we're seeing a drop in 90 plus days late is because those people are actually selling their properties. Remember, if the mortgage is paid off because the property's been sold, they will no longer show as 90 plus days late. Because so many people in this market have equity, this is a better approach than letting the property get farther into the foreclosure process. So that is another possible reason that we're seeing a decrease in the number of the properties that are 90 plus days late, because those folks are behind, say, that's it. Let me sell. Let me get as much cash out of this as I can while I still have equity before I start to lose equity. So interesting chart, one we will continue to track. We have to see if the 30 days late continue to increase, and then if they continue to move into the 60 and 90 days as well, and then ultimately into the notices of default and further through the foreclosure process. And don't forget, we're real estate agents based in Southern California. If you're having difficulty making payments or you're interested in buying a foreclosure property, make sure you reach out to us first. Thanks for sticking around to the end. We promise to show you one of the most expensive properties in foreclosure in Southern California. And here it is, 555 West 5th Street, easy for me to say, the gas company building. And this property had a notice of trustee sale filed against it. And there is about $450 million in financing against it. The value may be about half of that based on a recent comparable sale. So as we've talked about, commercial buildings are taking a big hit in value, and that's because of lack of occupancy. Tougher to fill them up now. Plus, with interest rates resetting in a commercial loan to market, they could go from a 3 to a 7. There's no cap on that initial reset for commercial financing, and definitely makes it tougher to pencil. So values have dropped significantly for commercial space. So this is a prime example of a building being foreclosed on that the lender is going to end up having to take about 50 cents on the dollar. We will have to continue to track this one to see what happens. Interesting twist that the LAHD, who we often talk about in our landlord-tenant content, has been negotiating the lease about 300,000 square feet in this building. They're making a move potentially, but who knows with this notice of sale, what is ultimately going to happen to that deal. So fascinating story. One of the most expensive foreclosures right now, and an example of how tough it is in the commercial market. Let us know in the comments below, are you tracking any foreclosures in your neighborhood right now? The next thing you need to know is in this video right here. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates, and we can't wait to hear from you.